everybody, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Now, I have a very special from head to toe to every single fine husband.
Let's move on.
Okay. And he's going to be joining me because so many people have asked me, whenever we share it, I guess on live videos, how we broke up and how we got back together when we were recording. So I just want to share a little bit of our story and kind of what happened and just share maybe a male and a female's perspective. So we were recording for about 2 or 3 months. And then all of a sudden, I felt like he got weird. Like I felt like he was like pulling back. He wasn't calling me as much. And I lived in New York City and he lived in Atlanta, Georgia. So I would call him and I was like, yo, like the phone is all we got. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, we would see each other a lot. And then there'd be times where he would just show up in New York for work and I would see him at church. And I'd be like, oh, so you can come to church and you can post on Facebook, but you can't text me back. So I felt like, sorry, babe. So I felt like I wasn't a priority to him. And that's a problem for me because when I was single, I was like, God, the next guy that I get a relationship with is who I'm going to marry. Like, I don't have time for games, Lord. And so I remember starting just to feel the pressure. I remember sitting in your driveway. Remember that?
I remember.
We're sitting in our driveway, or his driveway at the time. We were just courting. And I was like, well, you know, if you're going to be my husband, you need to have this, this, and this, and this in line. And he's like, well, if you're going to be my wife, you need to be like this. And we did not give our relationship an opportunity to develop. So we ended up that next week, you called me and we're on the phone and he's like, you know, I just need to think about us. And I'm like, oh, you need to think about me? And I'm like, no, that's not what we doing. I was like, if you have to think about me, let me make the decision for you. Like, we don't have to be in a relationship. I ain't got to beg, borrow, and steal to get no man. You know what I mean? And so I used to be like, I can have anybody I want. But I pretty much just felt like, you know, if I'm an option to you, then this is just not going to work. You want to kind of just share your mindset of that moment of just, I guess, coming up to that moment of feeling like this is not going to work out?
I just didn't want to be committed. I didn't like the idea of it. I was in long-term relationships before, and I didn't like the idea of being committed and having to do all this over again. After my last girlfriend, I was just beginning to enjoy my single life, and I didn't feel like I needed to like jump back into this thing so quickly. So I didn't want to be committed. I didn't want to be on the phone. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk about my day. I didn't want to talk about all these things. So, you know, to hear something like from we were recording at the time, to hear her say something like, I can have any guy I want. In my head, I was like, well, go get him then. Like, whatever. Like, I mean, it's cool with me because in my mind back then, I'm just expressing what I was thinking back then. I was like, you know, and I think I told her this too. I was like, it's a whole lot more of you than there are of me.
And I was like, that's not true, actually.
I was
did
like,
the research.
hey, whatever, y'all. I was like, there's a lot more of you than are of me. So deuces, 2 fingers in the air, intro deuces. I'll talk to you later. But, you know.
It was prideful. We were both prideful.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of commitment issues. I had pride issues. I didn't want to like confront myself and really look in my own heart and say, you know what, you got some stuff that you need to deal with. You're not right in this. You need to seek counsel for this. I didn't really want to do that. Instead, like most men do, and women as well, you know, you really have 2 different options. You can either run or you can fight. And when that got tough and I didn't feel like doing it anymore, I ran. And that was something that was different for me. That was the reason why it kind of bothered me so much because I've always been a fighter all my life. I've never ran from anything. So to get in this situation and feel like I need to run from her, I was kind of like, hold up, bro. Like, that's not you. That's not who you are. That's not who you've been. So it kind of had me to check myself to saying, okay, you know what? I need to stay here. I need to fight. But instead of fighting, I ran.
And you were, what, 22? I think you were about 22.
I was like 20-something.
Yeah, he was like 22 years old. And I was, I'm 4 years older, so I was 26. So I really just felt like, yo, I don't have time for these games. Like, and I felt like it was a game, you know, to him at the time. And although I know it wasn't, I felt like he was running because I felt like I was getting close to you. And I feel like sometimes when people get close to you, especially
for me, when people got close to me,
then
I put up a wall and I said, hold up. I got to keep you out. In order for me to keep you, I need to keep you out because I need to make sure that I push you away before you hurt me. And that was something that, I mean, I was hurt in the past relationship. I was hurt in relationships prior to that. So I had very shallow relationships, and I was fine with that. I didn't really want to jump too far in anything, because when I did, it didn't turn out right. So I mean, I was like, hey, she's getting too close. Let's put up this wall right here. She's still trying to break down this wall. And I'm like, bruh, you got to move back. So I put up 30 more walls in between us.
Okay, so take me back to that moment when we hung up. I mean, I know I was feeling like, well, forget him. Like, it also felt good because I'm like, we didn't kiss. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I was like, I'm glad I didn't kiss him, because I didn't feel like I had that physical tie with you. And that felt good, because I'm like, you know what, God, this is why you want to save sex for marriage and physical intimacy. I get it, because now I don't feel like I have ties to him. So I was like, whatever, I'm going to keep doing me. You know what I mean? Like, better fish in the sea. You know how we do, ladies. And I remember the next morning I went up to go pray. And every morning beforehand, I would pray for Cornelius. And prior to that, I'd always pray for my future husband. And then when I met Cornelius, I was like, I know he's going to be my husband. So I would pray for him every single day. That morning I got up to pray. I did not pray for him whatsoever. And then the Holy Spirit asked me, he's like, why aren't you praying for Cornelius? I was like, pray for him. I mean, I can pray. He's somebody else's husband. That ain't going to be my husband. I mean, I'm going to pray that he grows up. You know what I'm saying? Steps up to the plate. You know what I mean? And so that was just my relationship with Jesus. But I didn't want to pray for him, because I was hurt, because I felt like I put myself out there in this relationship and I got rejected again. And my big issue before that was rejection. So I just felt like, you know what, God, maybe I just missed you. So I remember the Lord telling me still to pray for him. So I prayed for him that day, and it was about it was 3 weeks. It was about 3 weeks, I think, to 2 months or so. It was somewhere in there. Y'all remember BBM? Okay, so he was my BBM friend. And the only contact I really had with him was on Facebook. Like, he was still my Facebook friend. And then BBM, and he would always change his little emojis to different things. And I remember just rolling my eyes and being bitter. And I remember on Facebook, right, this woman messaged, because it went from in a relationship with Heather to single. And this woman came in and was like, dang, y'all broke up already? This girl from church. And Chris gonna say, I change women like I change underwear. I was like, oh, he done lost. I was so heated. So
immaturity.
Yeah.
It was immaturity.
Yeah. So then he started messaging me emojis for about a week. No words, just emojis. He just maybe once a day, he would just put an emoji, a certain face. And I'd be like, what is wrong with him? I'm like, I'm not responding to him, because I guess if he wants to talk to me, he can pick up the phone and call me, or reach out and say things. So then he would continue to send me emojis. And then one day I was like, okay, you got my attention. What's up? And he was like, I miss you. And I was like, oh, you miss me? I was like, what you miss, brother? And so then he began to share with me. He was like, you're just so happy and joyful. But take me to that moment. What made you feel like I need to reach back out to her and make this work?
I just feel like I did. I knew within the first 15 minutes of talking to Heather that she was going to be my wife. And nothing really changed that. It was mostly me. It was like, am I sure I want this? Am I sure I want to be committed to this? Am I sure I'm the right man for this? Am I sure I can live up to the standards? Is this like a reality for me? Yeah. And in my head at the time, I was like, no, it's not. So when you mix hurt with pride, and so you mix all that stuff together, you have a cocktail of just poison. Yeah. And when she hung up the phone with me, when I hung up the phone with her, I was driving. I was actually driving. Was I driving home? I think I was driving home.
Yeah,
at
I
that
remember
time.
being
I was driving home from work, and she was in New York. I was in Atlanta. Driving home from work, and I was like, man, whatever. She cool. So then I turned around, went to Burger King, got me a Whopper, went home, ate. I ate I watched a couple episodes of The Office, and I went to bed. Because I was just it is what it is. If she doesn't, it's not working out.
Did you want me to fight for it?
I don't necessarily wanted you to fight for it. I didn't, because I wasn't gonna. I had already kind of made. I wasn't fighting. I kind of already made up my mind at that point. Yeah. And then crazy thing about it is my mom and my sister grew very, very close to Heather. So every time I got around them, they would be like, you crazy. You need to go back. You need to fix that. And I'm like, hold up, Ma, you my mama. You have no affiliation to this girl whatsoever. I'm like, my sister was so petty. She was so petty, y'all.
Yeah.
That she made Heather the godmother to our niece while we were while we were broken up. And I'm like, but my niece gonna be born on my birthday. Like, this is like my twin, and you gonna do that? But it took them. I believe that God also used them to just kind of wake me up. Like, you know what? You're going the wrong way. I believe that God does that. God can use different people, different things to kind of show you're going the wrong way. You need to wake up. You need to make sure that you pivot and you can go in the direction He wants you to go. And that was really my mindset. I didn't really think too much into it. I was just like, all right.
I think women think more into it than men do.
Y'all do. Because I was like, it ain't that big of a deal. I put up the status. I did like, in a relationship and I'm single. And I just felt like that was it. I didn't think about all these people are going to see this and what they're going to say. But then when the girl I remember when she made that comment, and I was being petty then. I was being real petty, very immature, because I was just kind of ready to wash my hands of the situation. I was ready to go. And I also wanted to keep just keep being selfish and being immature, and breaking up from her kind of allowed me that option.
So what would you say, I guess, to maybe couples that have broken up and maybe a woman's watching and she's hoping that they get back together? Do you always feel like, who should make the first move, or especially if you feel like in your head you should be back with that person, but the man's not making the move?
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of, it can have a lot of different variables in that. Mm-hmm. I mean, sometimes it's more of your emotions that are kind of wanting you to do that. Sometimes it's it's the sexual connectivity that you had, that you're not necessarily missing the person. You're not missing the heart. You're missing the organs. It's like you want a piece of them, but you don't really want all of them. And some of those things that you may think that you want, it's like God's really telling you, where you built that bridge, I'm really telling you to burn it down. I'm telling you to burn it down, chunk the ashes and put them at the depth of the sea. But, a lot of times if you are out there and you really feel like, man, you know what, this is supposed to work, and I know it's supposed to work, and that it's just your just like the hurt from the past is getting in the way. It is it's the selfishness. It's all the walls that you're building up. If you have a point in your life of consistently doing this to people, then it's probably a good indication that I'm making a mistake here, and this is not necessarily what God desires for me. It's not like they crossed any red lines for you. It wasn't like Heather crossed a boundary for me that I said, nope. This is no commitment. I can no longer commit to this because you did this. It was because of me, and I knew that. And if you know that's your situation, then rectify it. You got to be responsible, be mature, be accountable. And a big part of maturity is responsibility. Take responsibility for your actions, for your emotions, and then correspond accordingly. Who cares about that whole, I'm trying to wait for this person to do it, trying to wait for that person to do it. When you both get married, God brings you into partnership, and it doesn't matter who does it first. I mean, just come into it and make that thing happen and get on the right accord.
I remember when we kind of were starting to talk again, and I was confused because I felt like, okay, is he pursuing me again? Is he going to hurt me again? Is he going to pull away when I get close? I just didn't know what it was. And so he would reach out to me. I remember you reaching out to me. I remember being in line at Chipotle, and you were asking me, like, do you want to do this? And I was like, I don't know, because I was afraid. I mean, I didn't want to be rejected. I dealt greatly with rejection. And he's like, well, Heather, and we've been talking for maybe a month or two. And he said, Heather, I'm not going to go back and forth with you. Like, I want to be with you, and I'm pursuing you. So either you're going to walk this out with me, or we're just going to cut this off altogether. And I liked that he was willing to set the standard and get us on the same page. Because sometimes it's weird after you break up, you're trying to figure things out, you're trying to figure out what the boundaries are. So it was good for me that you led that. Mm-hmm. It was good that you were like, this is what we are, this is what we're doing. And 6 months later, you proposed. Yeah. So it wasn't like this thing where we just go around this mountain and we break up every 5 minutes. It was like, no, we know this is God, and we're going to do what God, the Lord's telling us to do. But I'm thankful that we both kind of put our pride aside, because now it's like we have our babies, we have, of course, each other, and we've grown in love like never before. And we have our ministry, and it's like, I wonder what's on the other side of a person's obedience when they decide to say, you know what, I'm going to put my pride aside, I'm going to do what God is telling me to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I also like what you said, babe, about trying to hope that that relationship is going to work out, but you know it's not God. Like I said, we knew for a fact the Lord told us that we're supposed to be together. Now, if you're trying to force it, if that person and you are unequally yoked and y'all are just, you know it's not God, it's a dysfunctional train wreck, don't hope that that relationship is going to work out. Instead, put your hope in the Lord. And some of y'all might need to let go of some relationships and leave that man alone with God so he can grow and develop in his faith, and just leave him alone with God. And if God brings y'all back together later on down the road, great. But don't try to drag that man to church. I'm going to drag him over here. I'm going to get him saved. We're going to get him right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. But that's our story. And I'm so glad we got back together. We get to be together forever and ever and ever.
Thank y'all so much.
Yes, see you guys later.
Bye.